Hi, I'm Frank Diamond, the managing editor of Infection Control Today, where we're trying to give infection preventionists and other healthcare professionals the information they need to battle COVID-19. With me today is Dr. Kevin Kavanagh. He is no stranger to Infection Control Today. In fact, he's an integral part of our magazine. He sits on our editorial advisory board, is a frequent contributor to our website and our print publication. He has an article coming out in our October issue about COVID-19 and schools and how they should reopen. So, Dr. Kavanaugh, what did you find out?
Well, one thing is that we really do need to pay attention to the science, and we need to guard our children. That's probably two of the most important factors. There are too many that think, well, we can just open up schools and we don't need to do much different rather than putting our children at school because they're very low risk. Well, there's two factors which I think you need to realize. One is that the children do become infected with the virus almost as frequently as adults, and they can spread the virus. They're just asymptomatic carriers. One study found that approximately 80% of children who are infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus are asymptomatic. But that does not mean that they cannot spread it to their parents and guardians who are looking after them. And also, close to 24% of teachers are at high risk for developing COVID-19. The second factor is that even though children are not at a very high risk for dying, they still may develop long-term effects from this virus. And this includes those that are asymptomatic carriers. In children less than age 19, only about 2% are hospitalized. But even those children and children who are asymptomatic may be at risk for long-term damage and effects on their heart. It's not likely to happen, but it certainly can. As you know, we have recent reports out of Penn State that up to 15% of their college football players who tested positive for COVID-19, and this includes both symptomatic and asymptomatic patients, had a myocarditis. And this may present many years down the line with a cardiac myopathy. Now you'll hear people say, well, we don't know what that means. They're asymptomatic, so they probably won't develop anything. Well, the problem with that narrative is we just don't know. And dilated cardiomyopathy, which is the most common type, almost 50% of those are idiopathic, or you do not know what caused them, and it's felt to be caused by an asymptomatic viral myocarditis. And so that this is cause for concern. And as you know, children can also rarely develop that Kawasaki-like disease, which can occur in approximately 1% or less of those that develop COVID-19, and that is a severe illness and can be very, very life-threatening.
In your article, and I encourage everybody to read the article when it comes out in an October issue, you mentioned you don't talk about COVID-19, although a lot of it is about COVID-19 in schools, but you also talk about how our schools are built and have not really been maintained and are not safe for children, protect them against a lot of pathogens. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct, Frank. Our schools in many areas are just plain dying. Their infrastructure is crumbling. Their windows don't open. The air really is not safe. Even before COVID-19, it was well known that if your child goes to school, you may well get more colds and also could come down with the flu. They are not healthy buildings. And so we do need to take this time and upgrade the infrastructure of our schools. This includes bigger classrooms, more hand washing stations, but also better circulation of air, filtration of air, and cleaning of the air. Look what the airline industry has done for airplanes. They place a number of people inside a small metal tube, but rarely are you hearing about them getting infections. Why? They have excellent circulation of air, excellent cleaning of air, They require everyone to wear masks, and whenever possible, they are employing social distancing. The same needs to be done for our schools. Wearing of masks and social distancing, not and or, but both. And social distancing needs to be a minimum of 6 feet. One of the things we've learned about this virus is that under certain circumstances, it can aerosolize, and this includes loud speech, actively screaming, talking loudly, and in that case, cloth masks and the 6-foot rule may not be enough. And this is the reason why you also need a variety of interventions, including upgrading the school's air systems.
I think the CDC has some guidelines for office buildings as far as refurbishing their airflow to make sure they're safe before they open. Is that not the case?
I believe that is correct, and the same should apply for schools. It really is crucial. We need to pay attention to the infrastructure. We need to learn to live with the virus. Now, some will say, well, this epidemic will go away. Well, you know, it really doesn't matter. Our children are our most precious asset. They should be in a healthy environment. And if it cuts down on the spread of the flu, the spread of colds, of other pathogens, that investment will be well worth it. And so this is something we really need to do. And we need to open up schools at a time when it is safe to do so. What I mean by that is a community spread of the virus needs to be low. And currently we are getting into almost an untenable position where neither alternative is good. Where if students stay home, they will possibly suffer psychological damage and loss of socialization skills. Or if they go to school, it's too risky. And all of this is a result of society not following public health advice and driving down the community infection rate and our test positivity rate to less than 1. And I'm saying less than 1. You will hear less than 5, but Frank, that is a bare minimum, the number 5. New York City is having trouble opening up schools, and their test positivity rate is less than 1.
Who would oversee the opening up of the refurbishing of schools? Would that be under the Department of, I don't know if this is in your purview, but would that be under the Department of Education, or would that be up to local governments to make sure schools are safe?
Well, I would think it would be under the State Department of Education. If you go into local governments, it's going to be really a whack-a-mole approach with different standards everywhere. And the virus doesn't care. It's not different everywhere. It is the same entity. And strategies that work in one place will work in another, and strategies that don't work in one place won't work in another. And certainly it's going to require grants, either state or federal funding, in order to get this infrastructure up to speed. And Frank, this will also stimulate the economy. Similar to going to war with an outside adversary, believe me, this virus is the same thing. We need to really invest in infrastructure, not only in schools, but office buildings and restaurants. All of this will require money. I think state grants would be great. And I also think that that's a way to stimulate our economy, let alone increase the safety of our children.
As you know, because you do write for us and write for our website a lot and write for our print publication, and you're on our editorial advisory board. A good part of our readership comprises infection preventionists. How do they fit into this scenario at all with schools and school safety?
Well, definitely. I think you'll find that infection preventionists in this type of climate are just not healthcare employed personnel. They need to be everywhere. They need to be in business, they need to be in schools, and of course they need to be in our healthcare system. But it is crucial to be in schools, to advise schools on the type of restrooms to have, on the type of social distancing, on how to set up a cafeteria, on how to filter air, on the type of PPE needed. And we do need to get the same quality of PPE for our teachers that is available for healthcare personnel. So yes, we need to look at this as not a healthcare problem, but as a societal problem. And infection preventionists are absolutely key in getting us back on track, both with the economy and getting us to be safe as we can be when we leave our homes.
Dr. Kevin Kavanagh, thank you so much again for visiting Infection Control Today. And you have a great article coming out in our October issue, and you're posting stuff on our website. And it's all very fascinating stuff. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Frank.